Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Curates, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Bryan. Bryan is the CEO and founder of Plato Data Intelligence. Bryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mustafa.
So, prior to Plato, what you've been up to? Can you give us a brief background?
Well, Mustafa, I like to start these conversations off by saying that, I've survived autonomy for the last 15 years, but it's overrated at times. And I only say that in a kind of a facetious way because I've been conditioned to kind of, run our business. And our business has evolved quite a bit, not only in the last year, but really the evolution of our ecosystem over the last 10 years. So, we're really excited where we are right now. We've maintained an autonomous track, which means that we control our own destiny. And, it's very rewarding at the end of the day when you see traction on things.
Interesting. So, pandemic, trying to keep the conversation much more relevant to pandemic, right? So, how it has acted as a catalyst for my technology businesses while it has affected a lot of other businesses. So how pandemic has affected Plato?
Well, we've been very productive during the entire pandemic. This episode that we're all going through right now. The ability to or our ability to readjust very, very quickly. Allowed us to make continuous progress without any disruptions. Across the entire venture capital landscape, I think this this period is representing a new reality across the business landscape right now. It is about being productive, and it's about kind of working within the context of, okay, I'm in front of my computer right now. How productive can I be?
Sense. So, which brings me to I'll come down to the productivity of the teams in a bit, but when it comes down to the venture capital landscape, right? Since prior to COVID, we used to feel like, since you have an experience when it comes down to venture capital, right? Prior to COVID, uh, the two coasts, the East Coast and the West Coast, had a dominance on the VC landscape. On the startups, had a certain advantage if you're based on the West Coast over the others, right? They've been 2 years back, there have been VCs, tweeting out that if the startup is more than 1 hour away, we don't invest in them by car and all. So due to this COVID, do you think the whole world dynamics, especially the technology VC world dynamics, are going to change where uh, startups that are not on the West Coast, even that are remote in Latin America or Eastern Europe or Canada, will they get an opportunity more now?
Well, we look at things very much in a distributed way, and I think venture capital is evolving, along those lines that, we don't have to be in a central location anymore, not to be able to do due diligence. There's certain regulatory requirements, for publicly traded companies and capital raising through licensed investment banks, where a FINRA requirement is to do an on-site visit. Well, on-site visits now are not, healthy, I don't think. And frankly, most workforces now have been kind of sent, into a remote mode right now. So I think venture capital has adjusted. This is a global marketplace that we're in right now. We interface with quite a few progressive funds that are really looking at things from a programmatic perspective. It's able to kind of remotely monitor the activity and metrics of a company and then size up whether or not they want to do a cross-border transaction or not. But we're seeing tremendous innovative activity out of places like India, places like Australia, that are able to move a little bit faster than your traditional venture capital firms in Silicon Valley or New York.
Fine. So now, as a founder, as a CEO, the productivity hacks. How are you, as a founder? You've supposed, prior to pre-COVID world, founders are supposed to be workaholics. Working like 16 hours a day, 17 hours a day. For them, the switch off is primarily, okay, you're in office, now you're back home. Once you're back home, you can switch off, right? But now work from home. So kind of like we saw that the productivity went up in March, April, May, June. But then the team burnouts started happening in July, August, right? Then another kind of learning started coming. So can you walk us through that journey?
Yeah, well, first of all, we didn't miss a beat. I returned to the office in March. I'm in New York City, which was at the height of the height of the pandemic.
Okay.
And I really went to the office to be productive. I just couldn't find my comfort level in my home office. I was one of the only people in the building that I reside in for, a period of about 3 months, which again, no distractions, completely focused. My kids were not in school, so I didn't have to drive them to school in the morning, right? And my day starts quite early. In the middle of the morning, usually I have and maintain a full development office in India, which we started from the onset in 2017. And just being able to stay on top of the small details that are necessary when you're building a product really causes us to focus. And I know a lot of other people also that were extremely productive on this front over this time period. To each his own. Everybody has to kind of find his own place. We're not locked into offices anymore. Even though I've been wearing flip-flops to the office for about 15 years, you know.
Everyone is wearing flip flops now. So, which brings me to my last question. Where do you see Plato 3 years from now?
We're really disrupting the data space. We hit a couple of very, very interesting nerves when it comes down to vertical data intelligence. We see our company organically growing considerably, and to be part of the landscape and to touch millions of people every single day is really very gratifying.
Got it. Got it. So, Bryan, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm sure we could have talked for another 10 minutes or so, but my marketing team kind of like puts me at a very awkward position where I'm enjoying the podcast and they were like, no, you have to keep them within 8 to 10 minutes. You have to keep them within 8 to 10 minutes. So otherwise they just cut them off. So it's our new marketing tactic of, being to the point, being relevant. Thank you so much for being on the show.
It was my pleasure, Mustafa. Thanks so much, and I hope to speak soon, okay?